top 5 books to help to improve your mental health. So as a therapist, it is very important for me to stay on top of my game when it comes to strategies and skills to help my clients whenever they're going through anything. So this could be addictions, depression, sexual abuse, anxiety, self-sabotage, divorces, anything you could think of, even performance anxiety, whatever you name it. I'm in the position where I need to be able to help them with anything they come in that door with. So as a result, I have to read a lot of books. I have to go to conferences. I have to take courses. I have to stay on top of my game. And what I want to do in this podcast is I want to talk about my top 5 books that are guaranteed to help you to increase and improve your mental health no matter what you're going through. So you're in for a treat. And the reason why is because I've done all the hard work. If you're watching YouTube, you can see that there's a bookshelf behind me. Most of those books, probably 80% of those books I've read. And I've been doing a lot of reading ever since maybe like 2020 when the pandemic started. I really took a nosedive into reading. Now, here's the thing. I absolutely hated reading growing up. As a matter of fact, and I don't tell this story a lot. So as a matter of fact, growing up, I actually wasn't good at reading. And my reading was actually so bad that in middle school, I remember a group of people coming to me and pulling me out of my class and putting me in a remedial class because they said my reading scores were so low. My reading scores, they were so low that they were actually afraid that I wouldn't graduate. So as a result, they put me into these remedial classes to help me to increase and improve my reading skills. And I have to say, I didn't like it, but I definitely appreciate it as I got older. So I just wanted to share that. And here's another thing. This isn't a part of the podcast, but I thought it was a very great gem. Believe it or not, I hated reading growing up, but as I got older, I started to see the value of reading. And as I started to see the value of reading has actually become one of my most favorite things to do. If you ever ask my wife, she'll tell you she is tired of going into Barnes and Noble stores because I just can't get enough of it. When I go inside these stores, man, I can stay in there for hours just looking at books, reading a few summaries, or even actually just starting reading them. It's because I love books. I love what they can do for me, and I love what they can do for other people. So lately, I've just become a big bookworm, if you will. And in this podcast, I'm going to tell you guys, out of all the books that I've read, the top 5 books that I've seen as a therapist that will help you to improve your mental health. So the first book that I absolutely love was called The Confidence Gap, and it's by a guy named Russ Harris, okay? Now, Russ Harris, he's a therapist as well, so you know this book is going to be good. And what he talks about is all the myths that we have when it comes to confidence. Because believe it or not, a lot of people believe that they have to have confidence first before they take an action. And this is where that gap is created. Because believe it or not, it's not until you do the thing is when you build the confidence. So if you say, man, when I get that confidence, that's when I'm going to start that business. This is when I'm going to start that real estate venture. This is when I'm going to start that podcast. This is when I'm going to go back and start dating again. If you're saying when I get that confidence, you're going to find yourself on the sideline for a long time. And I'll even make the case that even if you did get off the sideline, it will create a bad habit. And the bad habit would be the idea that I need to wait to get ready before I take a step, before I take an action. And that is called procrastination. And we do not want that. And this is what this book is all about. It breaks all the myths about what confidence is. And it tells you the appropriate ways of building confidence. And what I love about this book is that it talks about how you're able to get comfortable with your anxiety and how you can actually use that anxiety to actually help you to perform better, to push and motivate you. And within this book, it gives a lot of strategies. One of the ones that I love is this idea of becoming more open to the things that the mind says. It's not that we need to change our thoughts, because once you start getting into this back and forth with the mind, you're starting to give more energy to the mind. You start to give the mind more credit than it deserves. Because here's the thing, when it comes between you and your mind, you are the one with all the power. And we can prove it because without you, the mind does not exist. And the mind actually knows this. That is why it tells you all these negative things that could happen, because it needs to protect its number one asset. And its number one asset is you. So The Confidence Gap is a great book for anyone that is looking to build their confidence. I would tell you to grab this book, read it, and implement the techniques that it talks about. And like most books, you may want to read it twice or even 3 times to really soak in all the good nuggets. The second book that I absolutely love, and I just finished reading this, is called Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And as a side note, I did not know this, but Dr. Hardy actually went to the same college as me, We both went to Clemson University, which I thought was a huge bonus. But what this book talks about is the idea that a lot of us tend to approach life, approach our goals as who we are today or who we were in the past. And as a result, you're always going to get the same results that you have been getting. But if you're looking to get something new out of life, if you're looking to attract and accomplish really, really big goals, you need to approach these goals from your future self, because it is that future self that's able to make the right decisions. When we stop and look at the actions that we're taking today, we need to ask ourselves this simple question. Do these actions help me to get closer to that future version of myself? If the answer is no, then we shouldn't be taking these actions. If the answer is yes, then clearly we want to go down this path. This book was absolutely amazing. One part that I really loved about it was that he talked about approaching life as if you've already accomplished the goals that you're hoping to accomplish. Because a lot of people are approaching life they're approaching life as a way of going towards their goals. And what you should be doing is approaching life from your goals, from that Mount Everest, not looking up at Mount Everest thinking, man, this is a really big mountain to climb, to fight. No, approach life as if you've already accomplished the things that you're looking to accomplish. You know, there's another part about this book that I love, and it touches on this. He talks about this formula of tapping into your subconscious, if you will. So he says that you should approach your goals and life from the standpoint of be, do, have. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So he says you should first focus on being the person that you need to be, the person that you're hoping to become, right? So if it's a 7-figure business owner, you need to be that 7-figure business owner before you're making 7 figures, right? If you want to be a great husband or a great wife, you need to focus on being that part of you before you try to get rid of any skeletons that are in your closet. You need to be that person that you imagine. Once you decide that you're going to be this person, there's certain actions that are required of you to uphold this identity. So this is where the do comes in. So once I start to see myself as a 7-figure business owner, I start to carry myself like a 7-figure business owner. This may mean investing in myself or even investing in other people. So this may be getting on Upwork and hiring people to upload and edit podcasts like this, which is what I do, right? So being able to work in systems. These are things that we need to do in order to uphold this identity. Once we're doing these things, the have piece has no choice but to fall. So if I decide to, and I'm going to change the example, but if I decide to be a great husband, I'm start to do things that a great husband does, and I'm going to have the marriage that I'm hoping to have, okay? Like you can take that example and you can change it with anything that you want. But the issue is that people approach life and their goals from the exact opposite. They approach it from have, do, be. So they'll tell themselves, when I have 7 figures, right? When I have a 7-figure business, I'll then start to do 7-figure business things like hire people, or let's say shoot content, right? So maybe video content, social media content, whatever it is. And then I will be, right? Then I'll be this person that I want, right? So again, they approach it as I need to have these things in order to do the thing that I'm hoping to do. And then I will become the person that I want to become. I give an example with confidence. People may believe that I need to have confidence first to then do social media content and then become or be a social media influencer or to be an entrepreneur, right? You see how that's backwards? So again, approach life from the be, do, have instead of the have, do, be. And that's a great part of this book. And there's so much more that's in this book. And I find that it helps you to unlock a lot of things that may be holding you, let's say, limited, if you will, in any aspect of your life. So again, Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. So the third book that I want to introduce you guys is called The 4 Agreements. Now, this book was one that I kept hearing about over and over and over again. And before I get too far into it, it's by Don Ruiz, okay? Ruiz. So I remember I would hear this book everywhere that I went. And one night I went to an event with some friends and we went to a restaurant and we decided to ask everybody a question. And it was a simple question. What was the last book that you read that you thought was really, really great? So everybody started talking and giving their books and things like that. And then I heard this book again, The 4 Agreements. And what the person said was that this book was really great for anyone that finds himself dealing with some type of internal suffering. And I thought, you know what? Let me check this out. Even if it's just something for my clients, I think this would be a great book to recommend to other people later down the line. So once I started to read it, I was like, wow, this book is amazing. So many gems within this book. And the thing is, these gems, they weren't difficult. They were real simple. And the way that the author breaks them down, you find yourself having a lot of aha or epiphany moments. And that's what I want to share about this book. Now, I'm going to give you guys the 4 agreements. I'll tell you guys a little bit about it. But then I really want you to go ahead to Amazon and just go ahead and order it. So the first agreement, right, that he talks about is being impeccable with your word. So in other words, if you say you're going to do something, do it. And the reason why is because you start to develop this level of trust within yourself. You start to develop this sense of integrity within yourself. And with that comes a lot of pride, comes a lot of, let's say, self-worth. And not pride in a bad way, but you start to feel like, hey, like I'm worthy, right? Like what I say, I find myself I'm going to do, right? It is something that is freeing, if you will, right? Because you find yourself loving the idea that, you can trust your word, essentially. So again, that's the first agreement. The second one was don't take anything personal. And I love this, and I had to learn this one myself. People do things to you, not because of you, to be honest, but because they've been taught or trained a certain way. One could even say someone could be having a bad day because they just broke up with their girlfriend or just went through a divorce or whatever it may be. And they may find themselves pissed off at the world. And you being a part of the world may have just come across them on a bad day. And they may tell you some bad things that really they probably think of themselves. And you not being able to understand this agreement, you may take this personal thinking that you've done something wrong. And now you're just beating yourself up. You're thinking that you're actually a terrible person because this person has said that you're a terrible person. But often, people do things not because of you, but because of things they actually find themselves going through. And what this does is it actually creates this immunity that you have around yourself. You start to walk through life free, not thinking that, you're a bad person or being afraid that if you do something, this person will be angry or be upset at you. I'll even say this. Even during my entrepreneurial journey, so going through sales and things like that, marketing, this is something I actually had to learn myself because I would throw things out into the marketplace, right? So it could be a webinar, it could be a free PDF, it could be something like a community, right? Like a paid community, and people just wouldn't join it. Or people would join it, but they would cancel their membership. And me thinking, man, like I did something wrong, I would start to beat myself up, thinking that, I'm this terrible person, no one likes what I have to offer, and I should just give up. But something that I learned, and I'll be real specific, I'm gonna go a little bit deep. I didn't plan on sharing this, but something that I realized is that when it comes to marketing, people tend to not buy your stuff, not because your stuff is whack or it's not good, but because they don't believe that they'll be able to take advantage of the thing that you're selling. A lot of people don't have the confidence for themselves to, let's say, purchase this $1,000 course and actually use it. And they don't want to waste their money. So as a result, they say, you know what? I'm going to pass. And they take that money and they go waste it on something else, right? And it's not because you didn't do anything. It's because they didn't believe in themselves. Now think about that, right? If that is your belief, that when it comes to sales, whenever someone says no, it has nothing to do with you, I think you'll feel a little bit more freer going out there and asking for sales. But if you don't understand this agreement, you'll find yourself just beating yourself up and causing unnecessary suffering. So again, agreement number 2 is don't take anything personal. Now, I'm going to run through these next ones real quick just so I can get to the next books. So the other one was don't make assumptions, okay? I love this one, and I'm going to point to a study that was done. It says something along the lines of 85% of the things that we worry about tend to not happen. And I love that quote. I love that study because it helps me and my clients to free their minds of all this worry. So again, 85% of things that we don't worry about tend to not happen. You can Google that exact thing and you will come across that study. And then the fourth one is to always do your best. I just talked to a client about this one, and we were talking about this because when you focus on always doing your best, it frees you from the outcome. Why? Because you gave it your all. When you give something your all, you've given it your all. There's nothing more that you could have done, okay? And some days your all may be 50%, maybe 75%, right? There's sometimes we just don't have that 100% to give. But the question is did you do your best? So if all you had was 75%, did you give that 75%? If so, it allows you to live with the results of whatever it is that you're doing. So the fourth book, by far my most quoted book out of all my therapy sessions, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. The reason why is because, as Aristotle once said, you are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an accident, but it's a habit. What you do truly defines what you believe of yourself, right? So if I believe that, I'm a 7-figure business owner, I'm a great husband, if I believe that I'm a great people's person, I'm going to take actions that align with that belief. But if I believe that I'm not good enough, if I believe that, I suck at whatever it is I'm trying to do, then I will avoid, procrastinate, and make excuses to not take whatever action it is that I'm afraid to take. You are what you repeatedly do, and I love that from this book. Now, in this book, what it does is it takes real simple habits, right? Not even habits, I'm sorry. It takes real simple techniques, and it helps you to see that in order to build really big habits or habits that we think are like hard, it shows you an easy path to build these habits. It talks a lot about systems, little things you can do in order to make it so that it's easier for you to, let's say, go to the gym 5 days a week if that's what you want to do. And also in this book, it talks about the 4 phases of building a habit, okay? And within these 4 phases, he gives tons of techniques to help you in order to take action. One of my favorite ones is the 2-minute rule. So in order to make a habit easy to accomplish, or attractive rather, you just simply need to focus on doing this habit for 2 minutes. So it gives an example in the book where it talks about someone who wanted to lose weight, but they didn't like going to the gym. So what he told them to do, or what they did rather, was that they would go to the gym every day, but they would only go for 2 minutes. And what would happen is they would start to increase that time that I was at the gym. So they would go from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, 15 minutes, and they started to increase it. And eventually, going to the gym became a part of who they are. It became a part of their identity. And that is a big part of the first chapter of this book. So again, Atomic Habits by James Clear is a great book. And the reason why this is actually great for your mental health is because when we find ourselves feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling overwhelmed, a lot of times those things are coming from things that we haven't been doing. So having a long overdue list, not accomplishing goals that we said that we were going to accomplish. All these things, all these opportunities we allow to slip through our fingers. And this book will help you to build these habits no matter what it is that you're feeling. So the last book, I had to say the best for last. This is like my go-to manual. It's called Liberated Mind by Dr. Stephen Hayes. And the reason why it's called A Liberated Mind is that this book is literally giving you the skills to help to liberate you from your mind. And I love the way that he talks about the mind. He talks about the mind in terms of it being a separate entity, something that is not us. And the reason why this is so great is because sometimes the mind will say negative things. It will say things like, you're not good enough, or who do you think you are, or you're so stupid. But you don't have to believe that. And if you do not have that space between you and your mind, between you and your thoughts, you will allow everything that your mind says to define you, thus creating a prison that you find living within yourself. This book gives you 6 steps in order to break free of your mind. And this is what I absolutely love. By going through these 6 steps, it gives you the tools necessary, it gives you the techniques necessary in order to find peace outside of your suffering, to find peace outside of your anxiety and outside of your depression and all the things that have happened to you in your past. These things do not define you. You define you, okay? And that's what I love about this book. So, again, I want to go over these books with you one more time. And again, these are the top 5 books to help you to increase and improve your mental health. So the first one, and I'll make sure I show it just in case you are watching me live on YouTube. So the first one was The Confidence Gap by Dr. Russ Harris, okay? Absolutely love that one. He's a therapist as well. The next one was Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. The third one was The 4 Agreements by Don Ruiz, okay? So the 4 Agreements. The fourth one was Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's by far one of my most quoted books. And then the fifth one was A Liberated Mind by Dr. Stephen Hayes. And again, this one is great because he helps you to free yourself from all the things that you think. And it also helps you to learn how to embrace some of the things that we feel that are uncomfortable, okay? Absolutely great book. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel now that I give you all these great tips. And make sure you check out the next episode. All right, guys. I'll see you later.